Hello and welcome to the Love of the Star podcast. I'm Eric Chiafalo of the G-Bag Nation alongside the Super Bowl winning scout, Brian Broaddus, and we are now just 8 short days away from round 1 of the 2025 NFL Draft. This is a great time, very, very exciting. Broaddus, you got your big board, right? When's the big board going to make an appearance?
Yeah, last night at about 3 o'clock in the morning, I got finished with my final adjustments on it. 235 players. I've sent it to our guys over there at 1053thefan.com, and they're putting it together, making it look all pretty. So hopefully you'll have my board, actual board, by round, by position. I can kind of show you here. Let's see if I can pull one of these out of here from back in the day. Okay, this was the one I actually used in Philadelphia back in the day. So I had it upside down there. But that's the board. That's my board. That's the thing I do every year to kind of to kind of follow along, to make sure that I have all the players and I mark them off as I go. So I've got my draft board. I'm going to have my stack for you. So I'm going to rank them how I would take them from player 1 to player 235. So all that should be up the beginning of next week on 1053thefan.com. If you're listening to us and you're in overseas, I understand that we have trouble getting fans being able to get it that way. So I'm going to send it to. I do a show with Voch Lombardi where we're doing All Right on YouTube podcast every night. I've sent it to him, so he'll be able to post it as well. So if you want to go on YouTube and look at it that way, hopefully that helps the folks overseas that might not have access to us at 1053thefan.com. So getting it out there, and it should be up well before the draft, and hopefully you enjoy it.
You're unbelievable, man. We always enjoy it up till 3 a.m. just grinding away at the big board. Yeah. But you love it. You love it.
I do. This would be a great gig if you didn't have to play games. You know, if you just didn't have to show up and watch the Buffalo Bills just run the ball down your throat, or watch the Saints just throw 15 passes and just blow you out. This would be a great job to have. Like, okay, hey, listen, we all build boards. Look, we all build boards.
You did it.
And we did it, and we have a draft, and then you're like, okay, we drafted. Okay, well, who drafted the best? Okay, this year's Super Bowl champion goes to, and that's it, But yeah, this is a tough gig. It is, and the thing, if you're watching this and you're a Cowboy fan, the last couple of drafts have been kind of rough, especially with the first pick. And so we'll see how these things all play out this year. New coaching staff, new group in there. Scouts going to have a dominant role in the players that are selected. So a lot of pressure on Will McClay and the scouts to get this one right. They've got to find a way to catch up with the Philadelphia Eagles, and that's a difficult task. The Eagles have done a nice job. The Eagles have had their busts along the way too. We all remember Rieger, and they've had some. They finally got all their defensive linemen from Georgia to play well, and so but you've got to find a way to kind of match them along with the personnel, and the draft's a great way to do it.
No question. That's how the Cowboys like to do business. It's all about the draft, and now it's not only the Eagles but also the Commanders that you're chasing now in this division. So plenty of pressure on Will McClay, Stephen Jones, Jerry Jones, and this front office to absolutely nail this draft. We'll get more into some draft conversation here coming up in the mailbag as well. But a couple of housekeeping items here on the Cowboys front brought us. Today is Wednesday, April 16th, the day that Tyron Smith will be signing a one-day contract and officially retiring as one of the organization's all-time greats, 5-time All-Pro, 8-time Pro Bowler, 13 incredible seasons with the Cowboys, and then finished up his final season with the Jets last year. But it'll be a one-day contract with the Cowboys, and they're holding a retirement press conference for him later this afternoon at the Star today. And I would just love to get your thoughts on Tyron Smith, his career, what he meant to the organization, and what do you anticipate this press conference looking like today?
Yeah, first off, the press conference is going to last about 38 seconds. Tyron's going to thank some people, and then he's going to say, peace out, probably. Then when Tyron Smith,
man, a few words,
a little bit, you get a little bit of Larry Allen in him that way. Larry Allen, a man, a few words, one of the shortest Hall of Fame speeches that you'll have ever heard from Big Larry. But yeah, this is a day, and it should be celebrated. You know, Tyron Smith, when we go back to when he was drafted and how young he was coming out of USC and how he made himself, and I mean, the ability and all that was there, but he got stronger, he got bigger. He started to fill in as a young guy. And I just remember, evaluating him at USC and thinking, man, like this guy, he has all the traits that you want in your offensive tackle. And I think he even exceeded some of those, some of the level that even thought, we thought, hey, this guy is going to be an outstanding football player. But then you mentioned the All Pros and the Pro Bowls, and what I think, though, that we'll remember about Tyron Smith with all the greatness is the what could have been, the what could have been. And, we kind of have him and Zach Martin retiring at the same time. And you kind of have an idea about, everybody's like, oh, Zach Martin, first ballot Hall of Famer, no doubt, da-da-da-da-da. And you could have probably said that about Tyron Smith if injury wouldn't have robbed him along the way. We could be talking about two guys going in the same Hall of Fame class and both of them being like no doubt Hall of Fame players. But with Tyron Smith, injury robbed him of several quality years. And, he towards the end, he was playing hurt. But, man, what a tremendous player. It's just a shame that he almost had a very similar career, and people are going to kill me for saying this, but like Sean Lee, what could have been of Sean Lee? What could have been of Leighton Vander Esch? What could have, unfortunately, some of these great players for your Dallas Cowboys have succumbed to injury along the way, which has robbed them of potentially all-pro years. And that's the unfortunate thing that we'll remember about Tyron Smith is what a great player he was, but God, what could have been? What could have been if the neck and the shoulder and the quad and the all that stuff wouldn't have just back, all those things kind of failed on him. And it's that part of it's unfortunate, but when he was on, he was on. No question about that.
Yeah. I mean, he's definitely most synonymous with being a dominant, incredible left tackle for the Cowboys for many years. Surefire Hall of Famer. But you're right. I mean, the second thing when you talk about Tyron after his greatness is just how banged up he was and what a warrior he was, having to fight through all of that, still maintaining an incredible level of play, really up until that. I don't really know how he fared with the Jets. Even his final season with the Cowboys was not quite the same version, but the idea that he's still a surefire lock for the Hall of Fame despite all the injury-plagued seasons just shows how incredible of a talent he was. And if it wasn't for all those injuries, I think we'd be talking about him right up there with some, like maybe the greatest tackle in NFL history. Like he'd be right up there with those guys because the talent is undeniable. The resume speaks for itself. He's a no-doubter Hall of Famer. But yeah, as you mentioned, him and Zach Martin retiring in the same offseason, so they'll be due up for the Hall of Fame now in 2030. How incredible it would be if they go in together in the same class, two Dallas Cowboy offensive linemen going into the Hall together. But I don't know how likely that is. I feel like one of these guys is going to get slided, and it ends up more than likely being Tyron because of the injury stuff, right? I mean, Do you think if you had to bet right now, would you bet Zach Martin first ballot and then Tyron Smith hopefully second ballot? They shouldn't make him wait around much longer than that.
No, I think you're absolutely right. And this is what's going to happen is 5 years from now, the voters are going to meet in Canton, Ohio, and they're going to talk about these careers, and they're going to talk about Zach Martin this way, and they're going to talk about Tyron Smith this way, and then there will be somebody that will talk about the injuries, much like you and I have done here in the first 10 minutes of our show today. That unbelievable player, tremendous athlete, one of the best to ever play. But now it's like, but how healthy was he? Was he better than this guy who played, X amount of games? Was he better than this guy? Who are the others that he will be compared to going forward? And that's always the trick that you have to kind of navigate when you're a player that had a tremendous career that could stand on its own, but you also have to answer the questions about why. Why did he not play in more games? And the injury questions will come up. I think that Zach Martin will clearly be a first ballot Hall of Famer. I think Tyron Smith will follow after him just for the reasons I gave.
Yeah, I mean, that's the type of hair splitting that goes down. I mean, you only have just a handful of dudes in each class for the Hall of Fame. And even if Tyron Smith didn't have the injury stuff, I think it would be tough for voters to feel good about sending two players from the same offensive line, from the same team, into the Hall together. So I think it would have been tough either way, but that's probably the hair splitting that's going to be taking place is, well, the advantage goes to Martin because he was sort of an NFL Iron Man for most of his career, just a model of consistency and being able to show up Sunday to Sunday and get it done at a high level. So, but congratulations to Tyron Smith. Looking forward to the presser today. Do you think some of that evolves into draft like questions from the media to Jerry and Steven, or is this just simply, hey, we're showing love to Tyron and then we're getting in, we're getting out, we're not answering draft stuff?
I think if there's going to be, I think the Cowboys will have a pre-draft press conference next week. I think they're going to make this about Tyron Smith, unless Clarence Hill grabs Jerry off on the side and starts just firing questions, and Jerry can't help himself.
Right.
But I think they're trying to make this about Tyron Smith for sure.
Okay, very good. Congratulations to Tyron Smith, one of the legends of the Dallas Cowboys organization. Salute to him. And now we'll go ahead and get into some other stuff. You're listening to the Love of the Star podcast. Love of the Star is an Audacy podcast. You can find it on the Audacy app or wherever you get your podcasts. Now, I want to talk about Jalen Ramsey with you, but we did have Stephen Jones on with the Kansas City Masterpiece on 105.3 The Fan, Cowboys flagship, just yesterday, and they were kicking around some stuff. Obviously, now that it's draft season, one of the big takeaways was is he was very transparent about the idea of, we'd love to trade down, but trading down in this particular draft doesn't seem very likely. This feels like a draft where, at least in the first round, teams are going to be trying to bail out of their pick, if at all possible. And I think that's something that we've had a pretty good grip on throughout this entire process.
Yeah, and Eric, it's scouts will sit there and tell you, well, player 12 could be the same as player 40. And so, are you interested in getting back? Scouts, especially the guys that are former scouts that are general managers of these teams, love picks. Scouts are a very greedy group, around this time of year. Give me those picks. Give me those picks. And sometimes you have to be very mindful of what you're trading away from. Are you really getting the absolute best value? I just detest trading and not getting value for my pick. I can't live with myself doing that. I would rather stand in there and make a pick, and maybe there's another avenue. Maybe, Not every draft has a team like Detroit in it, where last year they had a clear understanding that they saw a corner sliding that they absolutely wanted, and they overpaid Dallas to get the opportunity to draft. You don't always get those opportunities, but I surely don't want to bail. There's a reason why I stack my board. There's a reason why teams stack their board. They're saying that player 12 is better than player 24. They're saying that, and people will say, well, yeah, okay, great. But okay, they're going to give you player 83. supposedly on a trade, you're supposed to get player 83. But no, they no, we're going to give you player 157. And to me, that sometimes isn't worth it. That's just not. But if you say, listen, I'll overpay you, or I'll give you player 83 for an opportunity to come and take your pick, I'm all in. I'm fine. Yeah, let's measure it out. Do we have enough players? Do we like enough guys? Do we have a cluster of players at positions that we really like? Are we kind of hunting a running back at this pick, and all of a sudden we've got 5 names we can live with? That to me, those are the kinds of things that make absolute sense. But if you just take a trade and you don't get value for your pick, boy, that bothers me. And like I always talked about the example with the Travis Frederick. They got Travis Frederick. Congratulations. Great drafting there. Great understanding of who the player was. But they left a second-round pick on the board. It ended up being Terrence Williams, but could they have gotten somebody better than Terrence Williams with San Francisco's second-round pick? I want to believe they could have, because instead of picking down here, they would have been picking up here, where their stack would have reflected better player. So I just to bail, just because you don't think that, just having an extra pick, it doesn't always equate in my mind. Now, it might equate in their mind, but man, when I was running a draft or working in a draft and we were having discussions about trading back, I'm like, are we really getting value for our pick here, guys? That was the question I always asked. Or are we just bailing to be bailing because we just want to collect picks? It's, you could collect picks and still miss on the players. Sure, you could also hit on the player too. But there's certain levels of why you stack your board that you would take guys. You would take player 83 over player 149 if given the opportunity, and you might have a better player. That's my point.
Yeah, you don't want to trade down just for the sake of it.
Just because you don't like. I mean, there's a reason. Like I say again, you stack your board. They should have a really good idea at 12 who they want to take. They should. And when the commissioner opens the draft and those names start coming off, their board will reflect that. Their stack will reflect that. Now if they're comfortable, and I'll give you an example, just real quick if I can. I'm sorry, I'm being long-winded right now.
No, this is great.
We're in a draft and it's the Julius Jones draft, and we have a coach, Maurice Carthon, that says, hey, all these running backs are the same. All these running backs. There was a pack of running backs. And we were on the clock, and we could have taken Steven Jackson, the running back, had a really nice career with the Rams and stuff like that. And we could have taken Steven Jackson. And when Mo Cawthon said all these backs are pretty much the same, we bailed. And Julius Jones, good player, but we could have had Steven Jackson. You know what I'm saying? So when sometimes when somebody speaks up in a room, and I hope I got that story right, because I think I do. When we were sitting there, like I say, we had a chance to draft a better player, but a comment was made. Well, all these guys are the same, and lo and behold, we got out of the pick and ended up, taking a good player, but we could have taken a guy that played at a very, very high level for a long time. And it just because somebody made that comment. And so, and it turned the room into, let's just back out. Let's go back. And okay, we got an extra pick, but we got a lesser player in the process.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. Great story. Now we have the news out of Miami about the Miami Dolphins ready to move on from Jalen Ramsey. Been one of the big name corners in the NFL since he was drafted back in 2016. And
the Zeke draft.
Yeah, the Zeke draft. Exactly. Maybe this can all come full circle now. A lot of Cowboys fans were hoping that Jalen Ramsey would have been the selection that night.
Yeah,
he's gone on to have a really, really nice career. He's been a little bit banged up over the last couple of seasons, but still a really, really good corner in the league. And if you trade for him, you're going to be paying him $21 million this year. So my question for you, as somebody who obviously knows a lot of folks around the league, what do you think the asking price is going to be for Jalen Ramsey in terms of draft pick compensation? You know you're going to be eating $21 million, but that's not a bad number for that position and that player. He's physical. He plays in the run game. He wants to tackle people. He's not shying away from that kind of stuff. So I do appreciate that about him. Obviously a ball hawk, but what would you say about what do you think the compensation will be for whatever team ends up trading for Jalen Ramsey?
Can I ask you a question before I answer your question?
Yes.
Do you worry about Ramsey getting traded and wanting to renegotiate his deal?
That happened with him in Miami, maybe even with the Rams as well.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly something that I would need to know if I'm a team trading for him, because he just got a new deal. I think it was last offseason with the Dolphins. Yeah, so It's like, hey, what are we doing here? I don't think that would be something I don't think I'd be willing to budge on that. $21 million is a fair price. So I wouldn't. I'd be hanging up the phone if they're like, yeah, well, we're going to need a new contract.
See, that's what I'm saying though, because we've seen a couple of quarterback deals get done, right? Didn't the Surtain deal get done? You know,
yeah, J.C. Horn, Derek
Stingley, yeah, and you just kind of wonder, a guy that has played at a very high level, has a lot of pride, but considers himself probably better than every player that we just mentioned. You know, that would be my worry. If I was trading for this guy, I would have to get an assurance from his camp that he would play for the $21 million. If he's interested in going more than that and renegotiating and adding years and all that stuff, I don't think I'd necessarily be in the room for that one. Hell of a player.
Same here.
Hell of a player. But the places that he's been, it's been, well, I'm not really happy with that. Give him credit. He's always positioned himself as one of the top paid corners. And he's probably looking at those other deals thinking, okay, Miami ain't going to give me any more money. Well, they just gave me money. They're not going to give me any more, and they're looking to move on. So I would be very much I'm interested in kicking the tires, because Dallas clearly needs a corner. They will. I mean, the first 3 picks that they make in this draft, corner is involved. Maybe at 44, a corner's involved. But I would think that, or maybe I should take it back, maybe at 12, if they take, if they really like Will Johnson or something like that. But I kind of feel like that I would kick the tires on Ramsey. But man, I need assurance that you will play for $21 million, and you're not going to come in here and be butthurt because you're not paid as one of the top 3 corners in this league. I'm
with you. I'm with you on that. This is one of those moments where you wish, man, if we still had that 4th round pick that we didn't give up for Mingo, maybe that could get it done. I don't really know what the draft pick compensation is going to look like here.
Yeah. I've just tried to I've tried to gauge it with my gang of 7. And if you're new to the program, my gang of 7 are my friends around the league that help me with, when I ask them about trades and stuff and information and things like that, they're always very willing to say. A couple of them are like, listen, I'll try and find out what the situation is. But right now, I tried yesterday afternoon, had a couple of guys say they would look into it, have not heard back on what compensation or what they think fair compensation would be.
Gotcha. Yeah, that'll be an interesting one. Obviously, I don't think the Cowboys are going to be interested in just $21 million. It'll still be too rich for them. Just based on the way they conduct their business and the salary cap and everything. So I don't think the Cowboys would be in play here, but it is a position of need. If you had your 4th round pick, maybe it's something you could do, but I'd be surprised if the Dolphins were willing to take anything less than at least a 4, and we might end up being shocked and the team's willing to give up much more than that here as we get into draft time. So that'll be something to monitor throughout the next week or so. Which team decides to make a move for Jalen Ramsey? Cowboys certainly have a need at the position, but not very likely that they go ahead and swing for that, which is kind of a bummer because he's still a dang good player. Yeah, that would just cross off one of those positions that you absolutely need. Again, I think we all feel like there's 4 surefire plug and play positions that we need right now when it comes to running back, wide receiver, corner, and a defensive tackle who can stop the run better than Mozzie Smith. So that it would make sense, but from the Cowboys standpoint, probably not. All right, let's get into the mailbag. You're listening to the Love of the Star podcast. Love of the Star is an Audacy podcast. You can find it on the Audacy app or wherever you get your podcasts. Dean Julia mailbag extravaganza brought us as we are 8 days out from draft night. Dean Julia with the first question. Will a team, Brian Broaddus, draft the big man, Des Watson from Florida, 464 pounds, try to get his weight down? He says, Dean Julia says that he's worth a swing in the 7th round. Do you think this guy, I mean, the biggest NFL player, I forget his name, but he was a tackle.
Aaron Gibson from Wisconsin. Detroit Lions took him. Yeah.
410 pounds. So this guy is resetting the record in a huge way at 464 pounds. He's on the record saying that he's efforting to drop some weight here because goodness gracious, there's no reason you need to be that big. Do you see that player? Is he a draftable player in your mind?
Yeah, I think to me, when you watch his tape and stuff, it is impressive for a man that size and how well he moves. It really, really, really is. But the thing about it is, though, teams are going to say, can you drop enough weight? Can you? I mean, literally, he's going to need to drop. I mean, you might need to drop 80 pounds. Think about that. I mean, just, you'd like him somewhere in that range of, and we have several defensive tackles in this draft. They're in that 322, 325 range. Some of them 332. Man, good-looking players, don't look sloppy, move, lateral agility, and all that stuff. This is going to be a tough ask. Now, if he's committed to losing weight and somebody gets him on board and says, you know what, the traits are there, we're going to try. But, man, this is going to be a big, big journey. But if he's committed to doing it, I totally agree on the swing in the 7. If you get down to the final picks in this draft, pick 248, pick 250. Yeah. That's what you're looking for, traits. If you could feel like that you could get him in there and he, in fact, can immediately start in your program and work on kind of remaking his body. But the guy has some ability. I personally, I wouldn't be surprised if he got drafted. I guess to answer Dean's question, I would think that somebody might late in the draft do that, but they're going to have to be committed to remaking his body before he even plays. You might have a 340 pound man hiding in that body, that could be even better player.
I like the idea of drafting him and making him, especially in this division. And I think we might be doing away with the tush push, but he's just a tush push stopper. Like that's his only role. 4th and 1, 4th and inches. He's the guy. We want you to stay 464 pounds, and you just go up in there and you swallow up Jalen Hurts on 4th and inches. Yeah. That's what we need you for, Mr. Watson. That's your role.
Yeah, man. I mean, I would be really curious to see, though, in talking to him, and he sounds like he's committed because he understands health risks too. But these teams can get him with a program, can get him with dietitians, can get him on an eating program, can get him on a workout program. And like I say, you might have a 340-pound player in that big body that moves even better, is healthier, lateral agility, quickness, power, all those things might come out of that guy if you can get him to lose, like 100 pounds.
Okay, our buddy Mark Clee, the MD, is asking, who do each of us want them to take at 12 and at 44? Dream scenario. I'll tell you now, Brock,
Is it us or them?
It's us. Who would we want?
Yeah.
And I think just knowing what's still out there from a veteran free agent standpoint, I'd be going and I'd shore up my offense with Keenan Allen, and I'd shore up my offense with Nick Chubb. I'd go get those two guys, plug those holes of needs offensively. Obviously, they're stopgap type players, but now I can go ahead and play offense with a wide receiver 2 in Keenan Allen and a running back in Nick Chubb. And I would take at 12, I'd probably go ahead and just take Derek Harmon, the Oregon defensive tackle, plug and play. I think there's low bust potential with that dude. And then I would go get my corner like a Ravel in the 2nd round and I'd feel great about it. I got stopgap guys who can plug and play offensively in Keenan Allen and Nick Chubb. I got pieces to build around defensively in Harmon and Ravel. And then from there in the third round, now I can go, maybe I go get my young running back. Maybe there is a young receiver or whatever that I want. But that's how I would do it.
Yeah, I like what you're doing with the addition of, if they would have made these free agency moves earlier, that makes perfect sense. I personally would take Grant over Harmon, the Michigan defensive tackle. But you're in the right ballpark because you're in that same group of effective one technique type players. People would say, I have Grant, the Michigan defensive tackle, one take. I have him like my 17th best player on my board.
Okay.
So he is right in that range. Matter of fact, I have him better than Harmon on my board. So I would, and that's just me working the draft. So I understand that. But your thought is absolutely right with that way. Now, me personally, I think they're going to, Ravel, the corner from East Carolina, I got a really good medical report from him yesterday, talking to some trainers around the league and some doctors. Dr. Dan Cooper did the surgery. I would be elated if he got to Dallas at 44. I think he's the best corner in the draft. I've got Hunter playing wide receiver, so I have him above. So that's why that's the case, and you'll see it when you look at my stack and reflection of my board. But yeah, if you told me that I could get, and me personally, without the trades without the signings that you did, I would love to see them get McMillan, and I would love to see them get Ravel. I would love to see that. That to me would be the best thing. Abuka, Golden, Burden, somebody like that in the first would be ideal for me. Now, they might turn around and take Will Johnson, the corner, first, and then turn around and draft the wide receiver at 44. We'll see. Or they might draft the runner at 44. So we might see, and for them, I'm thinking they'll probably do McMillan or Golden and then try and get the corner in the second or the running back in the second. That would be my guess what they're trying to do. Me personally, give me a shot at 2 first-round players. One of those wide receivers, and then with Ravel, I've got him as my 12th best player on my board. So he's down there in that mix where I would absolutely take him.
And it feels like wide receiver at 12 is the most likely as we stand 8 years out from this thing. If by chance, Broadus, that's not how it unfolds, who would be the receiver you would want them to go for at 44?
Well, now you're in a situation where you're thinking about as I pull these things up, you're kind of looking like I look at it as, and if I could get my notes together for you here, I'm trying to make it work. I'm looking at receivers like, okay, to me, just to give you a little pull back the curtain, Hunter is my first overall player. McMillan is my 7th. Luther Burden is my 10th. Abuka is 13. And then Matthew Golden is 16. Okay, Matthew Golden is the first player in the second round. So I had 15 first-round grades. He was number 16. Now when you start to talk about potential second-round guys, for me, Jack Besh from TCU, 42nd best player. Alec Imanor from Stanford, 47th best player. Jalen Royals from Utah State, 50th best player. Those are kind of the guys. Besh, Imanor, and Royals are those are the guys. If you went down a little further, player 62 for me would be Trey Harris from Ole Miss, and then Kyle Williams from Washington State would be at 66. So that's kind of where I'm at for second into the third round guys is what I'm looking at. So that's kind of if you went corner first and then went wide receiver second, Besh, Imanor, and Royals would be the guys that I would consider there.
Okay, great. Now I want to go back to your dream scenario. I like the Tet McMillan at 12, Ravel, the corner, East Carolina at 44. Then you would go surefire running back in the third round, Broadus?
I think that now you got to kind of look at, would you consider running back or would you consider defensive tackle? You know, now would you consider the one technique at this point in time? You know, so yeah, I'm kind of in that mode. If I pull my notes back up here again, yeah, I'm kind of looking. If you start to think about third round guys, you know, now it gets a little bit trickier for me because my first like tackle that I would take, and let me look at that real quick for you here. The tackles and the running backs are kind of like in a similar group because it's a pretty deep position. So if you're looking, say you're looking for those one technique guys, and I'm sorry, I'm doing a lot of navigating here on the fly, but if you're starting to talk about, I've got Alfred Collins at 92 on my board. Okay. Now the problem with Alfred Collins is he might go in the second round, but now you're looking at also guys like CJ West from Indiana. He got him at player 104. Jordan Phillips from Maryland, player 120. Jamari Caldwell from Oregon, player 133. So to me, it would start with Collins if he's there, and then work down to West, Phillips, and Caldwell would be the guys that I would consider in the third round. Hopefully a guy like Alfred Collins would make it to you. You might have to draft Alfred Collins at 44. You might have to. But those are the guys that I have that could potentially be there for you in the third round.
Okay, continuing here in the Dean Julia mailbag, John Hyla Jr. asking Broadus, which position would be more shocking for the Cowboys to take on day 2? Would it be in the second round? Would you be more surprised at them taking a safety or a tight end?
Tight end. I'd be surprised. And safety wouldn't surprise me because of the fact that they brought Makuba in, you know, from Texas. So I think they have an understanding there. He was a 30 visit guy. So they're at least they're looking at that possibility. The tight ends, I say I would be really, really surprised. Now, I'll say this though. Let me go back this way too, and looking at my board. When you start to talk about these safeties in this draft, and you know, I've got Xavier Watts from Notre Dame at 23. Andrew Makuba is 36 on my board. So he's inside the window of 44 for me. You know, Malachi Starks at 39 is inside the window for me right there. Now, if you went tight end and I, like I said, I would, you know, Mason Taylor from LSU is 29 on my board. That would be inside the window. Colston Loveland is inside the window from Michigan at 38. So it would come down to me, with Taylor, Loveland, and Makuba are there, and Starks are there, then now I have to start to make some comparisons there. But I really do like Mason Taylor a lot. But I would be shocked if they took a tight end there.
Robert DiCenzo is asking about the Cowboys' safety spot right now. Yeah. Do you see a world where Wanye Thomas and or Marquise Bell are the starting safeties for this upcoming?
I could see one of them. I can't see both of them. It was really we had a chance to talk to Mike Zimmer, remember last year before training camp, and he really liked Hooker and he liked Wilson. I don't think Matt Eberflus probably thinks the same thing. One of those guys could very well be replaced, depending on if you draft a guy. If you draft a Makuba who can cover, he can play back, he can play down. I think the guy that they might want to replace is Wilson, because I don't think they get the cover ability that they want out of him. That would be something that I think that they would look at. So I think one of the guys would start. But I thought it was interesting that they brought both Thomas and Bell back. I'd like to see those guys get more of an opportunity. I don't think Mike Zimmer and that staff gave those guys nearly enough opportunity.
And then the final question here in the mailbag, Starlin at Thundercat254 on the Twitter, saying the Cowboys are known for getting contributions from their undrafted free agents. Are there any players at the bottom of your board that you would like to see in Dallas as UDFAs that could contribute? Do you feel like this is is there enough bodies in this class that you feel like You got guys that can make a difference, maybe?
Yeah, I've got 235 names on my board. So if I could just pull up my board. I had my stack up, but let me see. Let me just pull up the board for you real quick. And then I looked at the wrong year there. Sorry about that. But yeah, there's some guys down at when you're talking about various positions and stuff like that. I think there's some tight ends. I know they always talk about, we were just mentioning that, but I was thinking about, there's a guy, Jackson Hawes from Georgia Tech, who is a really, really good blocking tight end. They did that before, went out and got a guy like that last year. So I would be totally okay with that. Tyler Cooper's a guard from Minnesota. I think has got some ability to him. He's a guy that's been a 6-year player at Minnesota. So yeah, there's some names of some guys that you would absolutely. I think that their board will probably have maybe 150 guys on it. You don't want to have more than that, to be honest with you. Your board becomes really, really cluttered. I do it because I want people to know how I see players. I just have to do that. But I think they're really good. Chris Hall does a great job of making sure that they go after, if there's any draftable players still on their board when that draft's over, those are the first guys they go after. So they've had some success playing the game that way, and hopefully they will again this year.
I love it. Well, that'll do it for today's episode and today's Dean Julia mailbag. Thank you to all of our great listeners for the fantastic questions. Thank you, Brian Broaddus, for being the super beast that you are. Get some sleep, my friend. This is going to be a big week. Draft week is now upon us, and we'll be back with some more Cowboys content coming up here in the next couple of days. Until then, ladies and gentlemen, be well.